Assalamu alaikum. I welcome you to another wonderful page of the Lime Green Journal with a wonderful guest speaker. A brief information about this venture. Lime Green Visual Art Space is excited to present a series of talks titled as the Lime Green Journal, which tells stories of creative journeys, cultural and conceptual exchange, and artistic cross fertilization, where we converse and explore the fascinating minds of creative people. We hope to inspire curiosity, ignite your imagination, and provoke new ways of thinking about the world. For this feature, our guest is Zainab Mawaz, assistant professor and one of the first faculty members to be inducted at the National College of Arts Rawalpindi Campus. Zainab Mawaz worked as the first foundation year coordinator for a decade and taught various theory and studio courses, supervised numerous researchers, and counseled a multitude of students in their art careers, including myself. Prior to this, she had the assistant program coordinator position for 4 years at Fatima Jinnah College, based in Rawalpindi, Pakistan, for her achievements in her Master's of Fine Arts degree. She has had numerous group shows nationally. She also serves as a curator and director for Mime performances. She is an art critic and has her reviews published locally. Currently, she owns and runs her own art consultancy by the name of Art.i.Zen Art Lab and is now the director and co-owner at Selfworks, based in Islamabad, Pakistan, which is a school for critical and creative thought, focusing on advancing and developing human potential. Ms. Zainab, thank you with all my heart for being here with us. It is an honor.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. All students are the best. It seems I've been going back in time a bit. I've been meeting people from 22 years ago, from 10 years ago, and it's been quite a long time ever since you went for your master's, I think. Yeah.
I think you just have a secret time machine and you keep going back whenever you feel like.
No. I move around, yeah. I move around a lot. I'm now internationally published.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I did a little stint with the Poverty Alleviation Fund, and that was an amazing experience for me because I had worked with other NGOs prior to this, but this was government, so I said, okay, why not? That's good fun.
So let's dive right in.
हाँ कोविड हो गया मैंने कहा सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग तो सबसे अच्छा है painting karo writing karo nobody to bother you yeah I was more involved in that.
You had always been unstoppable, and that's amazing. So inspiring for all of us.
I don't know about unstoppable.
You are unstoppable. You never stop.
Yes, we break as well, but I guess art seeps that up for us like a sponge. So it's easier to say things in visuals than probably anything else. I mean, a visual can be anything. It could be the way that I put my clothes in my closet. It could be menial like that. Or it could be something as complicated as the parts of a rocket ship, but it's still organized chaos. And that's the beauty of things, the contrast of it. The pain makes you make something pleasurable for other people. Or actually triggers something in their psyche, which is what I aim for basically. Some memory, some perception, or some vision. So the three things that make up art, basically. There's three things that you are looking at. You're looking at your sense of touch, and all the senses, of course, the 21 senses, not 6 as most people think them to be. And then you're looking at your sense of perception of how you perceive your reality. And that's unique to you because your chemicals are all aligned well, and mine are a little topsy-turvy because yeah, my best thoughts come at 4 a.m. in the morning. So yeah, so I'm unavailable at the times that you guys are awake. I am asleep.
Those are the magic hours for you.
इसे वास्ते सवेरे डंडा लेके शुरू हुई होनी सा बस ने आगे
सुबह 4 बजे. So let's dive in. I have a very exciting first question.
Yes.
So as for every creative individual in their childhood, the most exciting and trespassing dream is to draw and paint on the walls. What has been your earliest memory of being creative?
I think I got it from the cave artists. Because
were you present back then?
I pretty much decorated all the walls. And I remember my mother not being very happy about it.
Yeah. And do you remember what you drew back then?
Well, my dad told me, and I can only remember what he told me because obviously I was small. I took a packet of her blush-ons, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and I took a packet of her lipsticks, and I drew images of just nature or something, trees and little figures in between. And you know where the stairs go up? She was
Yes.
like jumping on top of that.
Wow.
So all up the stairwell, there was a series of beautiful little drawings of the sun, and you know the usual things that children draw. And this is amazing how our memory, our archaic memory, comes to the forefront. Whenever you ask someone to draw a landscape, you will see certain images evolve, and they're still just like our ancestors used to make. And it's eye-opening because yeah, that gives me visual stimuli as well in return. So it's a two-way process always. It's always been that way.
So have you sort of continued that playfulness, the fancifulness of the drawings, the earlier drawings of being a child, or have you sort of abandoned them and took a mature hat, put it on top of
Tell
your
me
head?
something. Okay, I'm going to ask you something in favor of this question.
Yes,
Have you
please.
lost your inner child?
Not at all.
Oh, yeah. So when you create, that inner child has to be satisfied. And that's what I try to convince people to do. I mean, that's half of my job, to tell
Yes.
people, look, you've got a creative spirit. The divine put something, a little bit of his divinity into you. Use it wisely. Use it. I mean, in whatever field you're in, use that creative element. Otherwise, you'll be lost in the crowd. You'll be living a mediocre life. What have you given back to the world? I mean, have you contributed in any way? Because those are the questions that are going to matter. After the age of 40, I realized this. I said, okay, look, there's a perspective to everything that you want to do. But what is going to sustain you, and this is Erickson, by the way, what is going to sustain you in the long run is how much you've contributed. You want to know if your life counted for anything. And when you reflect back and you look back at all the years, you want to make something out of it. So whether I'm helping one person see in the way that they should realize their greatness, it's fine by me. That's enough. I mean, isn't that what we're artists for? Keeping that inner child alive. And so many self-help books portray this image of, oh, it's so easy. It isn't easy. It
Not
takes
at all.
commitment. It
Yes.
takes patience. It takes resilience. It takes your sweat and tears. I mean, I've seen you guys cry at theses, and I was like, oh my God, how do I deal with these now? But yeah, there's a breaking point. It's a whole mental, physical, spiritual process, and you're using mind, body, spirit, and you're shifting between them. And those are the images that count. I mean, even, and if I ask any one of the graduates from any of the universities that I've juried at or talked at or whatever, they feel a sense of fulfillment, and that is your inner child being fulfilled.
So what adjective would you, sorry.
बोले बोले
So बचपन से लेके अभी तक आपकी जो evolution रही है, what adjective would you give to your evolution as a visual artist? I'm sure there have been moments where you have found yourself completely lost
I,
or
I think
without.
I use it. I think I'd use an idiom instead. Can I
Yes.
use an idiom?
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
A jack of all trades, a master of none. But read the
Perfect.
whole quote. Have you read the whole quote?
No.
अच्छा ये basically Robert Greene ने लिखा था for William Wordsworth. A jack of all trades, a master of none. Okay, but oftentimes better than a master of one. The whole thing was that. Now, we kept the first part because it was quick to say, but then the whole meaning changes. And I was, interestingly, Alina, this ties into a past memory. When I was being interviewed for my position, a woman of quite repute asked me, and I won't say her name because I don't know if she wants me to tell this story. And she asked me, she said, what would you rather be, a jack of all trades or a master? I said, I'd rather be a jack of all trades. So I had prepared my life speech for that day, but it came kind of naturally when you're when you're working, when you're thinking, when you're researching, when you're really getting into the spiritual side of your work, that's when it just kind of clicks. Your inspiration just kind of unfolds in front of you. So my evolution, as you asked me, I'd like to think that it's chaos. I'd like to think that it should be chaos and structure, and it should be well, I can't be the Aristotelian middle path really, but I could probably be, I could aim for at least a balance between the contrast within myself, because we all have Lucifer inside of us, don't we?
Yes.
And so, yeah.
So do you have a studio space where all your ideas are worth it, and what is it like? Can you please paint a picture of it?
I show you a picture. But wait. Okay, so first of all, this is our baby. I will not call it a project. I will call it a little baby. Me and my co-partner, Dr. Atal Hamid, he's an organizational psychologist, and I'm an artist. And through antiquity, we've seen psychologists, philosophers come together and work with artists. This man has knowledge of organizational psychology in the light of stress and well-being. That was something that I saw in our university students. A lot of unrest. They became political hotbeds. They were immune. They were becoming immune to sensitive issues, and slowly, and you'll see this in the society today as well. What spurred me to open this alongside him was he had a vision for teaching critical thinking, to teach people in such a way that there was a safe space, where they could talk about life issues, talk about issues that were important to them without being judged. And that was our first value that we formulated. So every institute may have their values, but they're not like a value that people own or people want to own. When you walk into our sanctuary, and now our sanctuary can be anywhere now, because I'm reaching out to the northern areas and I've collaborated with Rawalpindi. So Selfworks and Rawalpindi are getting together to teach in the northern areas and to teach in remote villages to actually enrich them in art. Because undeniably, between you and me, we both, I mean, everyone that's here knows this, that Pakistan has a religious taboo attached to art. And the stigma in the ranks which are not taught art education, and I'm sorry, our schools don't even promote art education. You need to start from scratch. So basically, I'm teaching at a K-12 level, at a bachelor's level, which undermines your talent and your abilities at the age that you're in. Because if you go through any of the psychosocial stage theorists, Freud, even Erickson, Jung, people who even aren't talked about, like trainers and consultants, you will see how they structure their works. And that's how we wanted to add knowledge to the general repertoire. So it started from there. And we decided, okay, we'll look for a space. We looked for a space in I-10-3. We found the perfect industrial workshop, which was like nothing. And then we built it. In fact, Saram mere saath laga hua tha throughout. Saram helped me out in making it. And so did Saima Salahuddin. And so we were together and we built it. And in 3 months, we started. And this was 2017. To 2018, and then yeah, we had 86 students from drawing, and I think 102 now from self-awareness, which are 2 major courses. And yeah, it's a little brainchild, and we're hoping that it grows, because everyone who walks in through those doors has to leave their ego outside. That's the one thing that we don't allow inside.
So have you seen people sort of transforming as they enter and when they leave?
Alina, it's been quite a journey. It's been quite an eye-opening journey. The first time that I was floored, like really floored, was when this person who had been extremely narcissistic, extremely manipulative, extremely self-obsessed, within 2 years, when she returned, she had so much gratitude and so much humility that it wowed me. And she also had started discovering empathy through that. So that was testament to it. So the slight changes that you see over time, because मुझसे तो बहुत देर बाद मिलते हैं लोग, जैसे तुम मिली हो, so you can see the change visibly. If there's someone meeting you every day, then it becomes very difficult to assess it. But
yes,
yeah, but that's what we do as teachers. We observe our students very closely, even though they don't know. We're like little stalkers, actually. That think of it. But it happens. It's just something naturally that happens. It's just like the teacher reads to you. It's like that song, Mad World. Yeah, she says in that, there's a lyric in that. I really like that one. Go on, teacher, see right through me. So yeah, that happens.
And so I'm going to refer to Selfworks as your studio, as your sanctuary, as you said it. How has it transformed your creative practice?
Well, I could work much larger. I had huge pieces up. I had a great time drawing big. I'm short myself, but I love drawing big. So yeah, 10 by 12, 18 by 14. I'm like, yes, bring it on. And I had so much space to dance. And you know how I am when I'm painting. I just kind of get up, make a cup of tea, because tea is my drug of choice. And yeah, and then go and paint and just have fun with it. I mean, at the end of the office hours, which are from 7 a.m., because I go drop my son off at school. And then after that, I'm at the office till 10 p.m. at night, or sometimes 11 p.m. So that time between from 6 to 11, I kind of just shut off my phone and say, okay, bye-bye world. Have a nice life. Yeah, that's one thing. I've detoxed myself from TV for the last 12 years. Yeah. And I've detoxed myself basically from social media. I'm not on it. It's a rare occasion that my daughter opens it and my son opens it. Yeah, you guys seen them grow up.
Yes. And I think it's in today's day and time, when social media has sort of been like an infection for all of us. It's like a virus within our systems that we cannot really get rid of. It's a pandemic that we can never get rid of. So, and for you, it's a privilege to just detach yourself and not be dependent on it. I think that's also something that aids your creative process. Yes. So apart from Selfworks, when you are completely alone, when you do not have any energies around yourself, so when you don't have to teach anyone or to mentor someone or school someone, what is your creative process then like? What are the thoughts that govern your mind? How do you do what you do? What's the process?
Okay, well, first of all, that's a loaded question, Alina. Okay, wait a second. You first asked me what's my creative process like. Okay, first of all, I always imagine the space in which the piece will be displayed. I think of the end product beforehand. Now, thinking of this it self-motivates me. It just, I don't intend to put it in the display space. Don't get me wrong. I am against, how I am against commercialism, and how, marketing art is just a consecration to the spirit in which it's made. But it has to be done because we guys have a stomach attached to us and we do need to feed ourselves. But this sudden blow up of social media artists has perturbed me in such a way that the quality of art is questionable. And when I say quality of art, I'm being very careful in choosing my words, because what could be quality to me could not be quality to someone else. But let me first explain this. The quality of your work comes from the amount of thought that you have given that subject over and over and over again. Your work, like it's famously said, it's supposed to disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed.
Yeah.
And that should permeate throughout whatever you're doing. So I give myself 4 years to research a topic, and it could be anything. And I build it with a mind map first. And in building that mind map, There will be fantasy worlds attached. There will be characters attached. There will be, at times I embroider pieces. At times I dabble in mixed media, like burning stuff and using different chemicals and mixing them together and seeing their reactions and really experimenting with the process. After experimenting with the process and taking my time, at least a year, 6 to 8, 10 months, 12 months can go in experimentation. Some ideas work, some ideas don't work. Then finally, I come to the final resting space where 2 years of work will be put in to actually make the whole work come together. And I work on 25 pieces at a time. I need to work on more than 10 pieces at a time to actually make that story unfold as it's unfolding in my head, to translate to the viewer the same way, because you can be lost in translation and meanings. What I may mean by a word may translate to you differently. And so I need to be very cautious of my language as well. And I need to be cautious of the space. Yes. And I need to be cautious of the time. So I'm very conscious of those 3 elements, because those are the 3 elements that make up conceptual art.
So which aspect of your work enables you to be most creative? The physical aspect of just opening up and drawing on large surfaces, or those endless hours of constant thinking and
It's not just thinking. It's not just thinking. It's also sketching. So you see, if I'm making one figure, right? I'll practice it at least 50 times before I actually draw it on the canvas. And then I just go in with paint. Then I don't look at the pencil. I have those sketches. I've seen them. I've memorized them. I've built an image in my head, is where I want it to come from, where I want the imagery to ultimately come from is me, right? So I've seen the actual object. I studied it enough, or I think I studied it enough. You never study anything enough. But then you get to the actual image and then you just directly paint it. And that's when your emotion is evoked, because the color evokes the emotion, the light evokes the emotion. The feeling that you're feeling behind has to be evaluated for a little while, but then you feel the gratitude in that as well. You feel thankful for that pain because it made you grow. It's like going to the gym. You tear your muscle first and then you grow it. So it's all resistance and transference and introspection and self-reflection, and then in the end, self-worth.
So how do you decide that your idea or the thought that you're working on, all those sketches and drawings and filling up notebooks and sketchbooks and canvases, how do you decide that your idea is good enough to be translated into a larger, proper, finished visual, like ready to be displayed?
Well, most times, maybe it's a gut feeling that you've finally gotten the right. Yeah, and it's intuitive as well as logically planned, because you've obviously done so much sketching beforehand that you've made compositions. And it's not just random subjects that you're doing the whole composition together. So you're looking at the story parts and you're looking at the characters that you've added and you're looking at the ambiance of the whole thing. So you're gathering material, observable material. Like, say I wanted to make Apollo and I wanted to make the 9 Muses. I'd go outside, draw some plants, get started with the background a bit in my head, come and do some light studies for it, put those plants in that light, check that out. And you just step by step, you start to grow. It's the same thing that I tell my students as well. You've got to start with the basics, always. I mean, when I make the figure, I don't start directly by making a contour, beautiful, sculpted Aphrodite there. I start with the basic gesture sketch and I start with the basic skeletal structure, and then I start fleshing it out. And it takes me many layers to get to where I go. And each layer is prepared as I grow in understanding of my subject. And my subjects are usually philosophically based, ontological questions, or ethical questions, or existential questions, or something related to epistemology. And I take those and I dissect them, and I read different authors and I study it under the mentorship of Dr. Saab as well. So that all comes together. And I think it's transfer of knowledge in the best way possible. So yeah, that's my creative process in a nutshell. But it can change anytime I wanted to. But 4 years, yeah, research. It's so important. I can't stress it enough. You don't churn out works. You don't, every year, you do not churn out new works. People either paint them, keep them, and show them to galleries, 2x2s, 3x3s, whatever they want to show, whatever number they want to show. And then they move to the next year and they show something else. Take your time. This art is not just some made up word that people think, that it's some magical talent that people have. I'm sorry, it's a lot of practice, and it's grinding every day. It's pushing yourself every day. Not every day are you motivated. Go find inspiration. You go look for it. I can't see, I don't see college girls who are doing fine arts going to exhibitions. I don't see them outside of their college premises, for God's sake. So much security around. I don't see the boys' colleges of the middle class going to museums or visiting, sites to see how architecture is done, to motivate them to come into these fields or to show them the positive side of this. God, no. All I hear are sermons from, yeah.
I think just the basic, a very ordinary gesture of people watching, just go sit somewhere in the bazaar and just watch people.
Yeah.
Watch them perform, like put your headphones on, and then the entire drama is switched on. You see a theater of so many characters around you. Because I remember in our earlier years in the undergrad program, you used to give us tasks: go to Raja Bazaar, go to Nankari Bazaar, go here, go there, just sit there, just go and sit. Even if you don't feel like walking, just go and sit. And that sort of like changed the entire perspective of being a part of public space and owning your own imaginary world and installing it there and imagining everything around you according to your own, like you're the storyteller, you're the director, and you just if there's a certain kind of music playing in your headphones, you would match it with the footsteps of this ready wala walking by. So it's been a really exhilarating experience. So for every creative individual, the atmosphere and environment really matters a lot. So what's an ideal state or environment for your best performance?
I'll go back to it. It's non-judgment, no gossip, valuing private space and people's privacy, and respecting the environment around you. And for you to choose excellence every day, choose to be inspirational every day. That's it. That would be my ideal space where people are like that.
So is it also about accepting yourself and embracing yourself and loving yourself to reach that excellence, the point of excellence you're talking about?
If you love yourself, if you really have a purpose and a meaning and a why to exist, you will automatically self-love. If you have a passion for building your skills, for learning new things, for accepting new knowledge, and also accepting the flip side of that knowledge, or the ones who are against your opinion, when you can hold a belief in balance with the ones who agree and the ones who don't agree with you, and you can hold that dialect in your head, that would be perfect.
Because oftentimes people really misunderstand the concept of being inspired by someone. They would want to become that person. They would want to embody that person, not understanding the importance of their own genuine, authentic self and what they have within themselves. Instead of spending time on discovering that and decoding or delayering that, people often spend time in understanding the other person, following their footsteps. And then I think, and I'm going to connect this with this question. People often don't understand it quite well. But the term influences, now that we live in the age of influencers around us, who feel like whatever they do, even if it's just by clicking a photo of their food plate, it's going to influence someone. So, how do you perform and function in this constant flux, in this state of constant influences around you? Uh, Something that is not really, I would like to say it's not constructive,
Uh,
but it's also not deconstructive, you know? So, how do you live in
yeah,
an atmosphere like this?
it's amazing. Okay, let me just start by saying that it's amazing how people have made small businesses work through these social media sites. And by small businesses, I also include influencers. You see, everyone wants their 15 minutes of fame.
Yes.
It's a known fact that human civilization has grown through time, evolved to have two reasons to fight. One is hierarchy, the other is territory.
Mhm.
Now, when you have a social media channel, that becomes your territory. And what you are trying to do is go up in the hierarchy. You have a little window where you are the stage, you are the director, you are the actress, and you can show your highlights. The whole idiocy of it lies in that very word, highlights. You're showing the good times. What about all those times that aren't so good? Oh, you highlight those too. I was sad. Who gives a shit? So seriously,
Yeah.
who gives a shit? If you ate at like a 5-star restaurant, or you're parking your car permanently in my garage, I don't want the upward social comparison. हमें बचपन से बताया गया नीचे को देखो, नीचे को देखो, नीचे को देखो. नीचे को देख के ज्यादा बुरा लगता था लोगों को. आप अपने आप को और बुरा महसूस करते थे. आप ऊपर देखते थे. तो सितारों को कौन देखता है? झल्ले आज तक देखते हैं. हम लोग देखते हैं पहाड़ों पे जाकर. Everyone wants that star status. Everyone wants a piece of the pie. Because your celebrities, I am sorry to say, have ruined your next generation. The next generation has grown up to be entitled. The next generation has known immediate gratification. And you are going to bear the brunt of it. Because they've only just started learning how many genders there are.
Yes.
And when they turn around to you in 15 years' time and say you're a cis woman who lived under a patriarchal system and you're a bleeder or a squirter, that's when your alarm bells are going to go up. Stress has been a pandemic since the turn of the 20th century. Take out any scientific article. Take out any science. I bet you, and please don't go to helplines because they are presuming that men can become pregnant. Helpline sucks. So don't use that, but use credible articles, journal written articles, Q1 articles. Take those out, read them. You will see that there has been a downfall of stress to the ages of at least 10. There is clinical depression. You know why? Why is it so sudden? It's not sudden. It's been a slow poison. The minute everyone started getting this fame, they started looking up to celebrities as their role models. So you have the Kardashians as your role model. You have Nicki Minaj as your role model. What knowledge do they have? We're taking cues from and we've been doing this forever, ever since the British left us. We have been in a quagmire of self-doubt. Our whole nation thinks that we're lesser than the Gora. And this has become a real big problem for us. And that stress level in the kids has made them so westernized in thought because they have no other backing. And this sort of teaching, drawing especially, can lead them back into their faith as well if they need it. If they don't, and they've accepted some other path for themselves, oh, good for them. But they need help and they're crying for it. I've taken workshops, stress management workshops at schools. My my title of the course is called SMART. It's through art therapy, not only art therapy, but it's through art that I actually take them into the crux of what their problem is individually. So I only take 25 people at a time, and we make focal groups and we talk about it, and then they SMART. So
Ji.
SMART is basically offered for corporates, it's offered to students, and it's offered to universities. In that, we also are launching in the north with Rawalpindi. Rawalpindi Travels is the only licensed company in Pakistan, like which takes to the northern areas. So they're like really facilitative in taking these trips of 300 people at a time, 150. Last year we did Lums and University of Baltistan. They have expressed an interest in SMART as well. So there's little projects that I do in between, which help the general public to understand that art isn't only a taboo, but it is, a healing mechanism. It's a creative outlet. It's, it's so many things rolled into one. And so there's so many ways that I can talk about in which I've conceived these courses, because the courses are very detailed and very meticulously structured, but they're structured around 4 things. One is the structure of self, which is your psychosocial development, your emotional development, your mental development, and your spiritual development. So we're concentrating on all 4 areas. I teach drawing and painting that way. All the art courses permeate through these 4 curriculum objectives that we have, these goals that we have. So yeah, all of my courses align that. I teach conceptual painting and art because that's something that I enjoy. I enjoy developing ideas with people. Remember, teaching is a 2-way process. It helps me to grow as well. Young minds, fresh minds, I encourage them to come forward. And artscapes. Artscapes is for the mature artists, for the artist that kind of met a block, or the artist that wants to return to art after a long period of time, or the artist that hasn't been able to come to a theme yet, although has a body of work. That course is special and it's very niche. I do it on individual basis. Yeah, so that's my art courses in a nutshell.
So how
And
do you
then drawing for non-artists. Drawing for non-artists you knew about, so I didn't discuss that. But yeah, that's for people who have never touched art. So I had bioscientists, I had neurophysicists, I had geologists in my class. It was lots of fun. Yeah.
That's the most interesting part of your process, of your service, because art is a very misunderstood field.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah.
And people from different, and when you have people from different backgrounds and dynamics wanting and willing to understand, or to at least practice it, or to just pretend to hold a paintbrush and apply brush strokes.
Yeah.
We could see the amount of satisfaction and how it's satiating their beings. But just to have those conversations and discourses with them, for instance, having someone from an army background, having someone who has been a fitness freak and has never done anything creative physically.
No,
so
I've had them. It's been great.
It's so invigorating. It's like you feel like you can help them, you can assist them, you can help them understand this
Art
beautiful.
is a superpower.
Yes.
Art is a superpower. At that point, art becomes like this celestial being that just swoops in and takes over everybody. I've seen it at the Drawathons. The Drawathon was the 3rd one is going to happen soon, inshallah. But the Drawathon is like everyone comes in and you have different stations and everyone walks to each station and they do something there. So they're creating throughout. So there's no, side pe smoke kar rahe hain ya side pe chill kar rahe hain. There's a lot of activity going on. It's all healthy activity. And in the end, they kind of are given a critique, just like we would critique in colleges and stuff. We give them a little overview of how they've done and what they could do further and how they could add detail or not, or frame it. I mean, whatever. But we give them feedback and then we talk to them so that they know that they've made something of value to us and to themselves, most of all. And that promotes self-love.
Yes.
Yes.
So, how do you describe the core concern of your own work, of your creative work, of what you draw and sketch or write down, or the projects that you have in your mind, which are ready to be launched? What are the core concerns?
Well, I'd like to just dissect the human psyche in front of everyone. I'd like them to walk in, and I don't care if it's digital or traditional, I'm not into that right now. What I'm interested in is the message that goes across, and that should disturb you in some way. It should make you think. It should be thought-provoking in every aspect. So from the words that I use for the title to the image and the colors and the formal and elements and principles and everything else that you wanted to dissect in the work, everything translates the same way. So the why, what, how, where, when is addressed for you. And you can critically reason and make up that image logically as well, so that it responds with you. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So, during your training, during your exploration, your process building, I'm going to come back to this term again, influences. So, what have been your influences? Are there any certain figures, any icons, any subjects or movements that have inspired you or influenced you or are dear to you? And you,
My can I can say it right now. My
yes,
mentors. I've had many mentors, and Alhamdulillah, I have been blessed to have had a father who introduced me to a museum restorer in Canada when I was only 5. I
wow,
thank him. I'm grateful to all of them for all of the arts that they taught me. I had a ballet teacher. I had a beautiful, beautiful gymnastics teacher. I had a swimming instructor. All of these were artists in their own right because they had practiced, they had drilled, they had owned their skill and taken it forward. They taught me a lot. And then when I came to Pakistan, interesting little story. I was enrolled in Pakistan School of Fashion Design, but I'd bunk and go to NCA every day after 2, because after 2 we had reading class, and I really didn't want to read. So I went to NCA, and I would stay there till the evening. Interestingly, the principal then even inquired once or twice, and I wasn't a student, but I was in every class that I wanted to go into. So I learned from Sayyid Akhtar. I learned from Bashir Saab. I learned from Idam Zia. I didn't go to the architecture department, but yeah, I went to every department and I had a great time and I learned from the best people. And then I met Jamal Shah. I've known him since 1996. He taught me so much. Hamid Durrani. These are people that were legends. Yeah, Muhyiddin is my teacher. Aslam Azhar is my teacher. I had many greats, and all the books I've read have been my teachers. And I am very grateful for them, for everything.
is there any book that you'd recommend online right now for everyone to read?
Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Franklin,
Frankl.
Frankl. And what is it about?
The man's this guy was in the Jewish concentration camp, and he was a doctor, and it's his story. And the things that he saw, the things that he did, the things that he was made to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you read the book, I don't want to ruin it for you. When you read the book,
Just a fictional
there's
book.
one question. You know, it's an actual true story.
Mm-hmm.
When you read the book, that's where you're going to find that you need to find your reason for living.
Purpose.
It's a very graphic understanding of the Holocaust,
Mm-hmm.
but the man was phenomenal. It's a phenomenal life story, and it's not a long book. It's so well written. I love it. I really love it. And that would be the first book that I recommend you. After that, तुम मुझे phone करना मैं तुम्हें
I definitely, I'm going to write it down after this talk. So, what emotions and responses do you hope to create to your audience or to your students or people who interact with you with your work when they look at your work?
I want their heart to dance. I want them to feel love. I want them to feel all the emotions coming in and sweeping them off their feet for a little while. I want them to forget that they're looking at a painting and they become one with it. Just like when we read a book, we become one with the characters. We start vicariously living through them. I want them to vicariously live through the image that's before them. Yeah. Hey, that's pretty cool. I should write that down. Okay. Yeah, I do.
And so, has there
They
ever
should
been
be
any
able.
encounter where someone is so rigid and is so unwilling to do it or enter into this dance floor of ideas, right? And how have you convinced them? Has there ever been an episode where your
What?
guidance
Okay.
or your process or just by understanding your way of enjoying life through art changed them? What has been that
Can
method?
I?
I know
Okay.
that, but I want to hear it.
My work uh has been sanctified as well. There's a lot of my work that I have not publicly shown. And I make art for myself, largely for my own audience. But I make it for people who I teach. I also make it for, because when I used to give you guys assignments, um, I used to do them myself as
Yes,
well.
I remember that.
And that was important for me as a teacher to demonstrate in front of you so that you learned at least one technique, if not other techniques, but then the replicas help to teach you the master technique. Well, it's a whole process, and there's a whole reason behind why I do what I do. But having said that, um, yeah, I haven't publicly displayed my works because they are extremely disturbing to the people that I have shown them to. But there used to be a painting in NCA as well. And there was a painting that I hung in that's the same painting that I hung in Selfworks. It was the image of a woman with a very long neck, with garlands that were hanging from the back, and a cage that was empty, and a dead bird, and a dead snake, and a man. But if one looked at it, one would think of, a divorce or some sort of marriage dispute or something like that, because she was dressed in yellow finery, a very saffronish yellow shirt. And the man was dressed in a blue sherwani. And the snake was, it was a triptych. So the snake was basically placed underneath the man's torso, giving many, many examples of meaning and layers of meaning. And the crow was beneath the snake's mouth. The snake's tail, however, was coming out of the man's arm. And it may be looked at as a story unfolding of the woman releasing the snake because she has that long snake-like neck. And if you go into Hindu mythology and you talk about the Nagin, that's a part of our psyche. The Nagin is a part of our psyche. Interestingly enough, the original sin also comes to play. The original sin of ours, and the fact that our psyche is ripped asunder. Our masculine and feminine, our yin and our yang, are ripped asunder when some traumatic event comes into play. And that's when we can be our most vulnerable. So personally speaking, a lot of my friends around me were suffering from marital problems, and I was basically their sponge as well. And I was their confidant, and they would rely on me. And so that also came out in this painting. And I have heard people say that it said a lot to them about their past, and it evoked nostalgia of past negative memories, and I wanted to trigger those. So yeah, that was one painting that really did it for me.
May I tell you my first ever response when I saw that painting?
Please,
When
I'd
I
love to
walked,
know.
it was right in front of the staircase first, and then it was shifted above the staircase when you would go down to the basement. So the first time when I saw that painting, I was in a very different situation and phase of my life.
Hmm.
And when I saw those beautiful garlands, gajre, I went back home and I bought myself a pair of gajre and I wore them. That's my first memory of that painting. And then obviously it became a part of our daily routines, of our classes, and running into you and you finding us bunking. And so that painting has always been there and it had spoken so many stories every single time I've looked at it. And weirdly enough, I've never found anything toxic or negative or metaphorically dark in it. Now that you've said it, obviously it's open to all kinds of perception, all kinds of interpretation,
Once it's up there,
but
once it's
all
up there, it's the public's.
it's public's
Yeah,
property, right? But for
yeah,
me,
yeah.
those garlands, the floral element that you added stood out the most because I think
Hmm.
I, for a very long period of time, never really associated myself with bright colors. And so for me to
Hmm.
understand that very beautiful yellow and tangerine shades all tied together, they made me buy a pair of gajre for myself, which I never
Good,
did.
good.
Never did.
Good.
And so I never told this to anyone as well because I bought those gajras and I came back home, bag mein chupa ke rakhe huए the, and I wore them at night at home. And then in the
You're so
morning,
good.
my mother asked me, "तुम किसी मेहंदी से हो क्या आई हो?" And I was like, "नहीं." So I remember having that effect of that painting, and I wonder why you don't show your work as often as other artists do. Is it because you would want to
I,
secure
I,
yourself as a
I,
creative person, or to not have any judgments passed on to you?
um, well, yes, and no. Yes, that there will be a bit of backlash, but I'm not scared of that. I
Mhm.
couldn't care less.
Would you be willing to show them
But
now?
uh, yeah, I'll have to open them. Um, I have a few of the new works, which I haven't exhibited yet.
Mhm.
I didn't work for a year in between, and so I'm a year behind in the finishing. The finishing takes a lot of
How do you integrate art with criticism of any kind? Because they say, things that you cannot verbally express, art is a
time.
wonderful tool and an equipment to express or voice out any concerns. And it has also been used in a form of activism,
Hmm.
in a form of fighting for something or talking about something that you are usually hushed about. So, how do you integrate art with criticism? What is the process? And with the process, I could please talk about the way one should integrate. We know by drawing,
Well,
we know by writing, but according to you, what's the
well,
method?
writing first of all, writing
Mm-hmm.
to clarify your thoughts. I could
Mm-hmm.
give you guys all here just one writing assignment, which will take you hardly an hour at max. And that will be to write about the strengths and the things that have been said about your work from anyone that you've ever heard. Whatever you've heard about them, make a list of those things and start scrutinizing them first. To
Mm-hmm.
get to a critique position, you have to learn to appreciate as well. And usually our criticism is called a jury. And I
Mm-hmm.
hate that word. I abhor that word from the core of my heart. How do you become the judge, juror, and executioner after 4 years of the student's work, whom you have not seen until the last day? And within an hour or 2 hours, or however long you take her interview or his interview, you assess them based on that work. There's so much that goes into the critique. The critique has to be a study of the background, of the history, of the person's economic status, the history of the day and age, of the present, of the history before his generation before him or
Mm-hmm.
her. How do those influences work in their work? Have they looked at every angle? But have you taught them how to research this way is my question first. You can't become a critic. You can't, just like you can't become a teacher just fresh off the boat. You need to learn how to teach. Okay, you learned your craft. You spent 5 years, 4 years learning that craft. How long have you taken to learn how to teach?
Hmm.
And then when you become a teacher and you start criticizing people's work, you're very indifferent. A little knowledge can be very dangerous. And that's why
Yes.
they said it.
Even the words that you
And
speak, the words that you use, they stick with you forever.
yeah, the tone, the body language, all contributes to it.
Yes.
Have you learned this as a teacher? Have you learned how to be inclusive? Have you learned how to be equitable? What are your own moral values? How much character strengths have you developed? And we all agree that empathy, kindness, compassion, gratitude, humility, forgiveness are the core character strengths that everyone has. And if you're going to critique someone on those things, you've got to be very careful.
Yes.
Very careful. I don't call it jury because it just brings this image of someone standing up and giving me proving to me their innocence. My God, what do you reduce them to? इसीलिए मैं कहती थी चूज अ फैक्ट्री मुझे गुस्सा चढ़ता था यार मेरे गीत को तरीका रिसर्च तो सिखाओ बेचारों को मैंने फर्स्ट ईयर में इसीलिए इंट्रोड्यूस कराया था कब समथिंग
So let's get back to you.
oh
Which area?
no
Yes. Which creative
अच्छा
process?
जी बोले बोले
Which area of creative, your own creative process, do you lack the most, and you're still working on it?
I lack empathy and that's very important for art. Yeah, so this is basically my artist statement. These were my I worked on an installation in 2002 and I'm currently in the process of going over these with embroidery, so that's going to be fun. But yeah,
okay, these are on canvas.
These are yeah, this was part of the installation. These were hung from the roof on a ceiling that I made, that I drafted with design with wood. It was designed in such a way that it would hang in front of, because I was given the hall room in the campus, and so you were supposed to walk into this installation led by two carpets. One was of fire, one was of water. I wove those two carpets together in different materials, so it actually seemed like there was water material underneath your feet. And these were hanging in midair. And these are the 7 deadly sins. And then you had the 7 virtues in front of them, which were very plain. I'll show you an example of them. I unfortunately do not have photographs of the installation because they locked my room to the public, and the photographer couldn't enter. So yeah, that was something that happened, which is why I think I don't like showing my work to people. That's also contributed to it to a great effect. I've moved on, I've forgiven them, but I hated them at that time. So this is passion, wrath, anger. This is mixed media. 2 figures you can see in this. One is the passive aggressive, and the one is the full-on aggression.
We are stuck on wrath, by the way.
Oh, you didn't move to envy, gluttony, sloth?
Now we've moved to envy, gluttony, sloth.
Okay, well, these 3 are also this part of the 7 deadly sins. The dog is a very recurrent symbol for envy. So the woman's body is twisted in such a way that she looks like the dog with the tree branch between her legs, which is symbolic of the dog's tail. These are tie and dyed first, and then they were painted upon and inked. There was spray paint, there was airbrushing, there was zinc and oil mixtures made for the crackle in the bones of sloth, because sloth had laid there so long that all her bones were cracked. You can't see the details. I'm sorry about that, but yeah. Greed was stolen from the World Bank. This was an experiment with calcium ki goliyan nahi hoti, and cod liver oil, And
Wow.
I don't remember. I had a recipe. I had a little recipe book. Someone took it from me and never gave it back. Yeah, but we used calcium, and so it looked like frog skin. It was really cool because I wanted that texture, and you couldn't get gesso mediums here at the time. Gesso mediums weren't invented. So we had to make up our own as we went. So that experimentation led to this. So when I talk about experimentation, yeah, lots of goodies.
Lots of
These are
goodies.
different types. So yeah, pride, lust, and then I started making smaller paint sketches that led up to these figures. This was done in this was isolation. It's called isolation. I went to the Ontario College of Art and Design, and for a year I took a life drawing course there. That really, really helped me
These are
to open up
beautiful.
my expression. This is on paper. The one that you see, this is called Holy Trinity. She's carrying the wisdom symbol. It's wrapping around her, but she's also a part of nature. The deep red haired one is basically sinking and sought, it's called. And then again, there's sloth, the smaller versions. These are chaos, these are pencil, ink, and paint, of course, and graphite. And this was after the earthquake, by the way, in Kashmir. I did these drawings because the trees actually did look as if they were bending down in prayer between the cracks, and so there was no organization, so I broke it from there. Again, oh sorry, repeated itself, but yeah, that's oil paint, both of them. And this is my gossip series. This is when people's judgmentalism was getting to me. And yeah. So Kiss and Tell was the series. This is the one I was talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
This is also a relationship series. The Essence of Camphor. I had just read it. And it just left that internal psyche and the struggle within. The other is the male and the female, a masculine and feminine, yin and yang. And yet there's an internal spectator who's looking at her from behind her in the mirror. So yeah, that too. This is on gender, a cutout of a transvestite, could be a female, but photographs of women taped up just like they do in their dressing rooms. The lock is a symbol of their thoughts, that they lock away. They don't talk to anyone outside of their community about it. And a little doll at the bottom, which is just transparent, because the young girls that are born there are also or given to them when women don't want girls, or their husbands don't want any more daughters. So they give them to them to take care of. There was also a very famous Hindi film on this, in which Pooja Bhatt played the part. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, there was. It's a lovely film. You should see it. So yeah, this was a demo. These are pencil and paint and ink.
These are lovely.
Thank you. Thank you. This is how what you were asking me, how my idea is inspired. Sometimes I'll be just looking at a wall or a picture of a wall or something, and I will see something inside of there. So there's two figures.
This usually happens to me when I'm staring at something and some visual or imagery, and there's something lyrical that appears. Yes.
In marble, in in the wall paint or something, you will. Many of these things will be studies of yourself and who you are. So there's a woman who's turned her back that way, and there's a woman that's facing you. This was just done. This was my inspiration for my Land of the Fearless. It's a little book that I'm writing. Not a little. It's actually become quite a lot. I'm not typing it. But yeah, there's a book that I've written and I'm illustrating with it. And so I wanted to create this tree, and the Land of the Fearless is basically Pakistan. And it's set in the 1990s. And there's two other lands, Land of Absence and Land of Presence. And within this is a fantasy world in which these birds are the main characters. And what they do and what they go through and the transformations that they go through to become the final thing that they're supposed to become. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah.
We can't wait
it's
for
set.
this. I can't wait for this.
And this is also a labor of love.
Yes. Thank you so much for showing us
मेरे
your
मर
work.
जाने के बाद नहीं मेरे मर जाने के बाद तुम लोग publish कर लेना. Yeah,
Done.
that's for the self-portrait. Yeah. Yeah. This is lace actually in the middle, which is done with pencil. This is sold. Yeah, this is sold. This is I used the paper that I had marbled on, the vasli that I had marbled on, and I had intentionally left a space inside of this blank because I wanted to return to it later and take out the form that I saw there, because sometimes the material gives you the process itself and guides your image. This crow just kind of appeared inside of the whole thing, and I just wrote these few lines.
It is lovely. Thank you for sharing this slideshow with us. I wish we had more time to explore the rest of it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we're going to have another session on your work, solely on your work. On this note, I'd like to ask the last very important question. If I ask you to give 3 positive affirmations to yourself, what would they be?
Forgive, maintain humility, and always be thankful for everything.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And you have no idea what this means to me and for Lime Green and for all those who are listening, because there's so many amazing things that you just told us, and they're going to be with us forever. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.